Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 90s to Now. I am, of course, Jerry Strauss. This is, of course, the place where you come to see your favorite stars from the 90s until you got it now. We got one here for you. He is a return guest. We always love to bring back the people who we enjoy talking to. And this one's super cool because we are pulling you, my friend, out of the drenches isn't even a word, but we're pulling you out of the depths of the strike. The last time we spoke to you,
That's true.
and during the Hollywood strike, we had to be all guarded about what we said, but no more. He's
Yeah.
here. He is an OG member of the TV show you all love and remember, the California Dreams. Brentley Gore has a lot to talk about. How are you, man?
I'm good. Thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Likewise,
Yeah.
likewise. And yeah, that seems like last time we spoke, and those of you who are jumping onto the show more recently, you want to go back to the archives because we had a full week of conversations with the cast of California Dreams, in
Yeah.
which we could not talk about the TV show California Dreams, and somehow we still kind of pulled it off. But that was all leading up to this gargantuan reunion that you guys had back
Yeah.
in New York City. It was Comic-Con weekend. It was insane. So now we get the post-game show. How did everything go for you?
Yeah, thanks. I don't know if you excuse me, have you spoken to anyone since we did that?
No, you're the first one to
Okay.
come back.
All right. So, it was fantastic. It was way better than we thought it would be because we haven't played music together obviously for years. And we didn't know how that was going to be as far as our how we feel. I'm going to take these off because they're really bothering me.
All
um
good.
as far as we went, as we felt, it was fantastic. I mean, we had such a good time doing it. And we got to meet people from all over the world who flew into New York, Ireland, and I mean, it was London, Liverpool, all these amazing places. And it was really great to be back with everybody and to do that.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. That's awesome. There was so much buzz, not just with our audience, of course, who were excited about all you guys coming on the show, but just in general, you could see on social media, people. It was the ultimate. If you know, you know. Like if you were a fan of California Dreams, you were really excited
Yeah.
about the fact that even if for people who could not go to the thing, they were just excited that you guys were all going to be in the same place
Yeah.
together. Um, well, I'll just bring it up right now. Is going to bring it up at the end. I really feel uh like there needs to be a grassroots movement to get this TV show, now that we can talk about the TV show,
Yeah.
on some sort of streaming service. I feel like you guys should and would be everywhere in the convention circuit. There's such a demand to see you guys, but there's no connective tissue to prove it because there's not viewership for the show because it's not on streaming. So it's got to come from the fans. I feel like we got to put it out there, hashtag stream California Dreams or something like that. I mean, if you guys are still interested in bringing about more of that buzz, I feel like that's the way to go. Do you feel that out in the proverbial streets?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think people have been saying it for a while, at first, maybe just a few people. And then eventually, everyone's like, why is this not streaming? It just doesn't make sense. So we don't really know why. We think some of it has to do with the music that was owned by MCA Records.
Mm,
And that's, now obsolete, but owned by someone else. Or, I don't know. I'm not sure. I've just heard that.
yeah,
Um, but nonetheless, supply and demand, right? So if
exactly.
people want it and people are saying that they want it, then why not give them? I mean, how many shows are on streaming services that we don't want to watch? So at least give the California Dreams. I think since it was syndicated before in 48 countries, that it's going to get a pretty good wide viewing audience.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely, and
I'm with
we also talked about on this show, about conventions, 90s Con. We appeared there. We brought you guys a lot of videos and interviews and content from there as well back in Connecticut back in March of this year being 2024, if you are watching decades in the future.
Right.
But my experience there certainly saw a good number of California Dreams t-shirts and stuff, just
Yeah.
walking around the thing and just getting a sense that you guys are definitely worthy of being a part of
Yeah.
that buzz and that nostalgia, that community.
Yeah, and I really appreciate everybody who did that, because I got a lot of pictures, and like, we're rocking the California Dreams shirts at the conventions, and we're making it, we're making our mark, and people that came to the reunion were at these cons,
Mm.
different conventions. 90s con, was that what it was in
That
Connecticut? Is that
Yeah, that's the
yeah,
one I was at
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
we attended. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I feel like that everyone is representing. I don't know what the red tape is. I really don't. If I did, I probably would have come back after 4 seasons and done the
Uh,
5th one.
Well, look, if there's one thing we know, if there's demand out there and there's money to be made, red tape tends to work itself out eventually. So I think you guys, if interested, should hit social media, let your voices be known. But I want to talk to you about something else that a lot of people have let their voices be known about as well. Of course, you've been very out there in letting people know about your new album, At the
Mhm,
Ready, which is
mhm.
we teased it, we talked about it a little bit, I think, when you were here last time, and now it's here. It's out for the world to consume. Um, Got to start at the beginning. At the Ready. How did you settle on the album title?
Uh, I labored over that. I think, ultimately it was, and I've shared this before, but plenty of people don't know this. These songs were all after California Dreams up until now. I'm like, this is 90s to now record. You know what I mean?
An
So
anthology, if you will.
that's right. But here's the thing. It's that these were all co-written and all done on a very high end under exclusive contracts and record deals. So I wasn't able to release these songs. They were done like 4 at a time, and then 5 at a time, and then a couple that were unreleased, and they were all co-written, and they were all under contract. I was all under contract. So after enough time passed, I was like, these things need to be heard. I need to just let them out and let the people that want to hear them hear them.
Mm.
And finally, I got approval from everyone after enough time passed. They're like, just put it out. We give you our grace, just put it out. So it was really a big release, a relief for me to get that out. And At the Ready was just like, I'm ready. I'm at the helm. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Because I felt like I was kind of dragging my feet and holding on, waiting for something else, waiting for permission or something to release these ultimately.
Mm.
But at this point, I was like, okay, I've been waiting. I'll still wait a little longer, but let's get these going. And that's just how I feel now. I feel like I'm ready and up for everything. That,
That's
after COVID, really, I really have felt that way.
yeah.
It's like, just, life is short and it's sweet, and, take, make it count. So let's just go. So that's how I feel at the ready. I'm at the ready.
That's cool. That's cool. Do you, from your perspective and to your thoughts for those who would listen to the album in its entirety, can
Mhm.
you hear a progression of yourself putting yourself into that music, like the way, like your evolution from the '90s through the decades, through the years to now? Can you hear sort of a journey?
I can. They're not necessarily in, well, they're not in sequential order
Mm.
of time on the timeline. But, for me, songs are very cathartic, and they're really a diary, if you will. They're a journal of my, someone was asking me about songwriting and making music, and I said, you know what? Ultimately, it saved me so much money as opposed to being in therapy. Because I have an outlet and I can kind of voice that, and that's something that's really important to me, um to be able to get that out. And so each one of those songs, to answer your question, really provides a timeline for me in my life, who I was with, what I was doing, where I was, what I was thinking about. All of those songs represent a significant time in my life.
Tell me if I'm wrong here, but I remember from our first conversation, I feel like the story of you joining the cast of California Dreams was that right before that point, you had almost agreed to join a band and move to Alaska. Is that correct?
You got it.
So,
That's exactly right.
okay. So, well, that's really interesting because you're about to do that, drop everything to go to Alaska and be a part of a band. You join this show, and now you've got this decades long journey of putting together this album on your own. It's your
Yeah.
thing. Does that represent like a big change in mindset of you from I just want to go and be a part of this thing to no, I want to take the time to put out to kind of give birth to this own piece of art that I'm the driving force behind?
Yeah, and I feel like it was an advancement for me, because as we spoke about before, leaving California Dreams, although bittersweet, was something I really wanted to do in pursuit of creating things, in my
Yeah.
artistic mind and my artistic being. It's like I wanted to create things, and I was sort of, you know, I did. You at the time you think it's forever. You don't realize, at least I did. No one told me, "Hey, California Dreams could, if it lasts 5 years, that's going to be amazing, and you have a whole lot of life left." But for me, it was like I just was chomping at the bit, and we were young, and I was just wanting to do things, and so I really left California Dreams in pursuit of making these songs, and that's what happened. And I wanted to make something, and this was really a very big um example of one of those achievements for me. you
That's
know
all. It feels like a culmination of like that entire chunk of time, which is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
Um, how does it? I mean, you talked about feeling ready. You put it out that day. It's out. You start to get feedback. It is now out there in the world for people to hear.
yeah.
After all that time, all that anticipation, you have to believe a little bit of fear, maybe
Well,
mixed in
sure.
there as well. So how does it feel then at that point overall? Is it a relief? Is it a mixture of emotions? How did it feel that day?
I've run the gamut. That day specifically, it was a relief. I felt a sense of accomplishment, because
Oh,
ultimately what I wanted it to do was to be out, available.
yeah,
um you know Music business, as we know, is not a music business. It's just a whole, like, as far as a global world stage, that's a whole different thing. But for me, which I wanted to pursue when I was making these, but at this point it's like, um not that I wouldn't like a world stage, because I am an entertainer, but at this point, realistically, it was more about getting them out and getting that behind me so that I can make more. And I'm telling you, as much as I've wanted this to be just like, oh, this is an amazing record, it's really more, it's been more about allowing that to sleep and rest and be done and move on.
mm,
Now I feel like so much weight was lifted just to be able to get all those out, because they were just lingering. I felt it's like baggage, you know what I mean? It's
yeah, yeah.
so, um, and I think they're going to have a lot of life. I mean, if people are talking about putting them in TV shows and movies, and we may or may not tour the specific record. I'm sure I'll play some shows, but at this point, the accomplishment of getting them released was my ultimate goal.
That's great.
Yeah.
Goal achieved. Um, it's interesting to think about how the music business has changed, from the time this started coming together till now. Was there ever a thought to albums aren't really a thing anymore? I'm just going to put out a few songs here, a few songs there. Forget about waiting to finalize the whole thing and make it right. Like, was there any thought to just kind of cutting that aspect of the project and putting the music out in maybe an easier way, or were you very much attached to the idea and the goal that you had when you started out doing this?
I had to answer that question. And being that it was really a group of songs that deserved to be on an album that were completed, I could have gone single video, like everyone does,
Right.
or EP video, that kind of thing. But writing and recording, well, recording's different, but writing and promoting my music and getting songs out there is not ever been my issue. Um, it's being like, what do I do once I have these?
Mhm.
So I had to answer the question. And, you know, a shout out to my engineer, Jerry, who, his name's Jerry,
Oh.
with a G.
Oh, wow. Wow. We're
um,
good people.
um, had to, you know, we went through that, and I said, I think this should just be an event. Just put it out as an album. If people like one song, they'll go back and discover there's more songs. And I grew up probably like you in album ages, where you like to get if you like the single, you buy the album.
Yeah.
Singles happened really late 90s, early 2000s. Like, people were getting record deals for just singles because
Yeah.
that was the life of a record of an artist. Um, so I was happy releasing it as a record, because, and I heard Prince say this, and I've never forgotten it. It's like, time goes by, and the releasing a project takes so much time and energy that by the time the music comes out, you're already on to something on to the next. And I really get that, because it's like, now I'm writing a ton, and I just have a record that just came out. But it's just who I am. And so, I'm happy to get it out there and put my energy into new things,
That's
because
cool.
being a promoter, that we all have to do now with this
Mhm.
day and age of entertainment and all that, is not the funnest part about show business.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not. And not for me anyways.
I gotcha. I
So,
get yeah.
yeah.
So the idea of putting out a single every month and then having to re-promote something new, that sounds
Yeah, and it
terrible.
changes. It changes. The landscape and the energy of the world changes, as well as my own individual, what I'm wanting to say. So
Right.
instead of it being like, well, here's a song, this is a good song, I like to say, wow, this is going on in the world right now. I'm really feeling this song. Let's get it out. So now I can do that because I don't have this stuff in the back saying, well, I never even put those out. So now I can just put it all out on a record, have
Mhm.
it out there. People that want to listen can listen. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people love it, some people don't. It's okay. It's totally good. It's totally fine.
Do you find any conflict at all with the way people who know you primarily from California Dreams
Mhm.
and then follow you to your music? Is there a surprise? Is there sort of a rift between, well, wait a second, this isn't, surf dudes with attitudes. This is something somewhat different. Do you encounter that at all? People surprised that you can do something different than what they heard on the TV show?
No, at this point, I've shocked people so much. It's like, you know, I think from a distance, people that didn't sort of follow my career, which is just, a little box of people, um, people that hadn't seen me, they're like, "That's the kid from California Dreams." Like when I was doing Stoke the Fire and doing this glam, and my hair was long, and I was playing rock and roll, and doing that hardcore, like people were like, "Oh, that's so sad. He must have really done some hardcore drugs," like that kind of thing. And it made me laugh, and I was like, "Wow, that I guess that people really, when they know who you are, they kind of want to see you in that light. So people do see me as Matt Garrison,
Yeah.
and um, and that's okay. That's just kind of what it was. I don't. Even though I'm a Bowie fan, I don't need to reinvent myself over and over and over.
Well,
Um,
the other thing is back then they weren't also simultaneously following the real you on social media. The Matt
right,
Garrison, that was the only version of you that
that's
they
right.
knew.
That's right. And there's good parts about that too, but I preferred when YouTube happened and I started making little videos. I was in
Mm,
heaven because I had my little, you know, camcorder, it was
right.
like this big, and I started making videos and then making little songs. And those were some of the funnest times I ever had creating because I was in total control of the music, what the video is going to be like. I didn't need a record company. I didn't need a bunch of money. You can just kind of do it on your own. Now it's all about that. Now that's what our landscape is totally. Um,
DIY. Yep.
so yeah. So, but I feel pretty content with having everything be exactly the way it is now. I wish we could make more money because then you wouldn't have to go from gig to gig to gig to gig. But uh, you're not going to change the way things are really, unless you come up with a genius idea.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's just a different world in the entertainment world and beyond now. But
Mm,
it's you talk about total artistic control. We did get some questions
mm,
from people anticipating your return to the show, and we've covered most of them already. But I want to ask you something because this is kind of interesting. Going back to California Dreams now,
mhm,
you've got in your head you're already an artist.
mhm,
You've been an artist before you got to the show.
mhm,
You are portrayed your character a very specific image, a very specific type of music, as we said. Did you ever feel any conflict about that, as far as like who you thought you were as a musical artist and the way that Matt was portrayed, the way he was presented, the way he performed, the music that was on the show?
yeah.
Did that ever cause you any sort of conflict, even internally, or?
It did, yeah, for sure. And being young and rebellious, and full thinking that better than those that are ahead of you. Um, you know, uh, yes, I had to make peace with that. And ultimately coming back and playing the show. I don't know when I talked to you in the process of rehearsing for the show.
It was
How
in the middle. You were
Okay.
rehearsing already a little, I
So,
think.
and I might have said this, but I mean, outstanding some of these songs, you know what I mean? Like, and I didn't feel that way at the time because they wanted to make what was current in the time. And I was kind of going into the rock and roll. I was starting to go down that road in my own musical taste.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Nirvana happened, all that stuff. And I was sort of, I love the blues, it's like, I like that. But this is like the other side of the coin where it's pop. And I'm certainly no Justin Timberlake and dancing, and you know what I mean? Like I'm not really the boy band type of guy.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, I was torn, but I really think in retrospect, looking back at it and playing this show, this New York show, I was just so happy and pleased with what we did, and to be part of it was such an honor with such amazing musicians. And Steve Tyrell just did a fantastic job. I mean, as per usual. And um, I did have to go through that, but that was all part of my growing up and saying, hey, it does, just because you're doing something, it doesn't have to define who you are. And I
Right.
think that's ultimately what I learned is that California Dreams doesn't have to define who I am. Even that's how most people know me. And,
Mhm.
but when you're young and you don't have that realization, you think, well, this is all that I am. But that's not true.
Yeah, you could be
You
more
know?
than one great thing,
Yeah,
on
yeah, that's
I
right.
let me ask you this, is it gratifying for you to go to a especially something like that reunion, where there are people in that building who are not just having loved and listened to your music or the music that you guys were a part of for all those years, but they're in there, they're singing it, and you it's this visual evidence that this music that you were a part of has stood the test of time. It may have seemed very trendy at the time, but in reality, I mean, people are still singing it today. Like, that's
Well,
gotta
that's
be cool.
just it. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Yeah.
That's just it. It stood the test of time, and those are great songs, and it was great production, and it accomplished exactly what they set out to accomplish, which was a feeling of nostalgia,
Mhm.
a feeling of remembering the time in your life, which is what we all remember with great songs. Now, I'm not, you know, I could listen to Surf Dudes with Attitude theme song and it could take me right there too, you know. But I did, I don't know if you saw, but I did I've been doing some of these covers, and I did, what did I do? Lean on Me, which is on the first record, and I recut it and I put it up on my social media. And seeing that back, I was like, this is a fantastic song. This was one of my favorite songs. And it was so much fun to sing and not having to worry about my production head. All I had to do was sing the song that someone else had written and the other people had performed at a really high level.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize the freedom in that because I had so much I wanted to explore. Well, now that I've had all this time since then to explore all those things, now I really appreciate what would I with the opportunity I was given and the songs that were provided.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Um, I wanna ask, this is kind of a two-part question to wrap things up, and again, man, it was great to talk to you again. Great to have you back on the show. Um, what in your mind would be, and you've teased both of these things already, a great next step for you, the artist, and if we're gonna continue to see more from the California Dreams? Like, are you guys we'll go with them first. We know we're gonna put it out there, hashtag stream California Dreams, whatever you guys want to
Yeah.
try to catch fire. But, any talks of anything else beyond New York?
Well, yeah, I'm working on it and I have been hinting at it at my social media. It's it what here's what we really need to happen, and I'll say it on your show here, is we need the Comic-Con guys to get the Dreams to the events so that we can play more shows. Um, it will be a double win for everyone in that town because the California Dreams will be able to see the live show and we'll do Comic-Con and everyone wins.
Yeah,
Um, Streaming, yeah, you're probably spot on. That's probably what would make that happen. But people have been rallying behind us and getting us to more submissions to some of these events. So we'll see if that pans out.
yeah,
There again, it's beyond me. I don't know the red tape of all that. But
right,
what I would ultimately like to see as an artist, as a Matt Garrison, um, is I would like to do some more shows with the California Dreams guys and combine that with some of my music as well and tour on that because we're not that far of a departure. I, that I've made peace with that. I'm not trying to break away and strip myself down from who I was in the past.
yeah,
I've left that behind. I'm not interested. So it's like what we had was great and what we have now is great. So let's enjoy it and let's just make it happen. So that ultimately that's what I'd like to see is some events, some
yeah.
more events and more locations. Um and hopefully we'll get that ball rolling. I mean, that
We
we are working on it. We're working.
Awesome. Awesome. We want to make it happen. You already kind of addressed part two, but I want to ask you maybe for the more immediate, you talked about possibly going out and doing some shows.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Are you looking to specifically tour behind this album, or are you waiting to cycle even more new music into the mix? When can we expect to see you uh, heading out to the
It's a
stages?
it's a it's a I would like to do it both because it's we all have families and we're not in our 20s and can't get in the van and go drive. You know what I mean? Or just
R-
so so I would like to combine the two because it just makes the most sense. It just makes the most sense. Local shows and things I do, I'll get a wild hair and I'll book a show and I'll do something locally or I'll drive. That's the thing about Nashville. It's like there's so many states and we all tour out of here.
Mm,
Um, the deal is that it requires a band and that's a whole nother thing. So financially, it's not easy to do.
yeah.
You need a tour and you need something to support. So the record's not going to pay for a tour. Spot
Mm.
my 0.003 cents from Spotify is it's not going to pay for a band.
Right.
So
Right.
so yeah. So it's the water, the dam's got to break somehow because there's a lot of people that want to see what we have to offer, and there's people that want to see my stuff. So it's just a matter of time getting it all together and seeing how it all unfolds. I think I'm looking forward to touring. So I don't know when that's going to be, but it's going to be soon.
The voices are getting louder. We know it's going to happen. We just have to wait and see. And of course, follow you on social media. You have like the most eclectic group of image, or like the stuff that you've been putting out since you put out the album on your own social media. It's like everything is like an audition for a different variant of an album cover. Like
Yeah.
that's the way I see
I
it.
just did one today. I did one last night and then I did one today, which I don't know when this will come out.
Mhm.
But you'll probably see it by the time it does. And I am having so much fun doing these because I'm doing verses and choruses. And if the song really kind of flows out of me, I write the whole song. But if not, doing the verse and the chorus and giving people on my social media, excuse me, content that they enjoy has been a blast. It's a
That's
blast.
awesome.
I love it.
That's awesome. And
But
of course, if you guys want to check out the album, it is called At the Ready, and you can get it where? Everywhere, right? Everywhere you can get music.
yeah, iTunes, Spotify, all of it, Amazon, all of it. It's all out. So yep. And I'm gonna do more. I'll also plug my Bandcamp because that's kind of the most friendly artist way to get music.
Mm.
At the Ready's not up there, but singles that I'm releasing now are gonna I'm gonna start putting those up there, and
Okay.
I can kind of like dodge Spotify and iTunes. You know,
Yeah.
we'll just leave it at that for now.
Gotcha.
For now, until we see what happens. It's just day by day with us musicians and things.
It's the
And then
beauty.
if something happens, like I do have some things coming up that people are inquiring about me doing more since I've been more in presence of people and kind of putting myself out there. I do have some potential projects coming up. So there could be some other things come down the pipe too. So stay tuned for that.
Everybody follow Brentley. Keep an eye on everything that he's doing and check out everything that he has been doing. Some of it has been literally decades in the making, so it's definitely worth your time to check it out because it's all really cool stuff. And so is this. So is this episode. As always when we get to hang out with you. So thank you for coming back on the show, man. It was great.
Oh, it's really great. And I really appreciate the time and questions and good to see you again.
You
See you next
too.
time around.
Absolutely, absolutely, and, we'll see you guys next time around as well
See you
here
guys.
on 90s to Now. Follow, share, do all the things that you do to help keep us growing, keep Brentley going, and, let's stream California Dreams.
Let's do it.
Later.
Later.